Welcome to the Mystery Channel, where the veil is thin and the echoes of ancient knowledge speak through myth, magic, and the turning of the cards.
First of all, thank you so much for the invite. Yeah, sometimes I forget the courtesies. Thank you so much. And I don't know. I mean, I love talking to people, and I always appreciate being on call. Sometimes I don't always have the time for it, but I try to make the time for it. And especially if people are up to some interesting new projects, then I want to be part of it. But then I just want to, there is a small caveat, today. So usually I can just talk for hours. In fact, that is one of the things that, I have to hold myself against, or I'm responsible, with my own students, like they ask me a question and then often, in our closed classrooms, and then my partner who is the tech person, or he monitors the chat because I can't multitask, so and then he goes and I says, well, I hope you realize that the answer to that question took you exactly 25 minutes. And there is a queue, and I'm like, oh shit. And then I have to ask, "Well, how many?" And so there are six. And I'm trying to think, oh, six. Okay. So I can't be spending 25 minutes. So, but the caveat, I may not be in my best spirits because my dog died today.
Oh,
Oh, I'm so
Um,
sorry.
yeah.
Thank you. So, and she
Oh,
was a very special soul, and we've had her for 13 years.
Okay.
And
yeah.
well, yeah,
Oh
and
my gosh.
My
Yeah.
sincere condolences.
So, yeah, I can't even imagine. If my cat died, I'd still be on the, yeah, that's very brave 'cause I wouldn't even be
yeah,
functioning.
yeah. I
I'm so
mean, I don't know.
sorry. Oh,
Thank you. Sometimes you just think I did have a moment that, and I thought you should be canceling this. You are in a bit of a state. And then yeah, I mean, I don't know. And then I thought, nah, I have to follow my beautiful dog's lead. Like you have to show up for your responsibilities. Like you have a scheduled thing. You're not gonna say, oh, I'm ill, or my mental state is not exactly up to scratch. And then it's like that's the one thing. And then the second thing is like, so you know and then I thought also, well, who's to say, maybe on occasion the topics that we end up talking about, they may also revolve around some of these subjects, that are more touching, like grief, or like bereavement, and how do we even deal with, I mean, with the kind of love that, I don't know if you have ever had dogs, or you said you had any pet,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
How do you what you have in your heart, right? And then and I was like, so it was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, but I had read the cards, because speaking of, that's what I do, so I read cards, and I don't know, edit. You are welcome to keep any of the stuff. I don't really care. Once I appear on any kind of show, it's whatever, so I try to be a bit zen about it. But I like to, and if I have any reputation out there in the cartomantic world, then it's because I try to either teach others or hold myself to some of my basic principles, which start with the premise for reading for precision as best as you can, So instead of like going here, going there, this can mean this can mean that. And
Yeah.
so unlike some of the other perhaps introductions to tarot, or the more classical standard texts, they go through meanings card by card, which can be very useful, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so what has a list of meaning got to do with the concern that you may be sitting with right then and there, So ever since I started raising these issues, I guess that's been all my 2 decades now, that although I've been reading cards for much longer. Um, but it's because it's with the advent of the internet, with the social media groups and all that, and you start listening and say, oh, there is this tarot group, and then there is this other tarot group, and what are they talking about, and then I saw what they're doing, and then I, coming from a slightly different reading tradition, than the Anglo-American, being a Romanian, although I've been living in Denmark for close to 40 years now, so I consider myself it's like home here. So I've always had a bit of different approach, even to that which we may call the esoteric tarot, or the esoteric, or more or less the esoteric Lenormand, or the fortune telling cards, playing cards. I've been in Romania. One reads with playing cards. that's
Yeah.
that's what we do, and on occasion also some fortune telling oracle type of cards. So I come from that tradition where you just go like boom, boom, boom. So but you always hold yourself to a particular context. So that was the thing that I've always started out with. And I say, well, I feel that while all of this talk is kind of interesting and fascinating, when I was like peeping through the tarot groups on Facebook, and I say, yeah, but what has this got to do with anything? So I started trying, like, raising some objections to that. And I thought, on one hand, people thought, oh, wow, this woman sounds interesting. And I started laughing. And on the other hand, of course, also equally quickly, you get to experience what it means to be ever so passionately hated. Like, people just like, bad, but that's not traditional. They would go like, the fuck tradition. I mean, who cares about if it doesn't make any sense. No, but and then the French school and the German school, and then so I started out by basically I made a name for myself by bashing others. Or just pointing and bashing. I know. It's like, I hope I'm old enough and wise enough for that to know better. But it's in the name of being instructive. I would just go and point, which is actually a little bit worse, because when you can argue for your case, and I say, so can I have a demonstration? Or else you go like, oh, if you say this, then you are going like, you're off the target completely, and then you demonstrate, and then some will say, oh wow, that makes a lot of sense, and then the haters would go like, uh that's not good, that's not kind, that's not nice. And then it's like, who the hell says anything about being kind or nice? Or so there are all these energies, and clashing, as far as I was concerned, with what my own personal aim was, and that was to deliver as coherently and as clearly an answer as possible. That was all. So I wasn't interested in all this. Yeah, but I don't like this, or likes and dislikes, and how kind, or empathy, and I'm like, what are all these words, all this nonsense, right? So it's like, you get the question, you better answer it. Answer the damn question, or read the damn cards, to the best of your ability, and then hold yourself to some context. Now, but that was the preamble. So of course, related to my beautiful dog, Frigg, the Norse goddess name.
Yes.
Yes. So
Odin's wife.
Sorry?
Odin's wife.
Yes, Odin's wife. That's right. She was that. She was absolutely beautiful exemplary of a wolf, and she was wise and loving and kind, and actually she appears in quite a few of my books, the latest in my Scent and Divination. Now that this one that hasn't even been launched yet, let me just show you a picture of
Oh,
her. So
yes, I want to
I
see.
always, every occasion I get, I put Frigg in the. So here is Frigg.
Oh my
Here
goodness.
is Frigg,
Beautiful.
trying to kiss me, or some we always had the kissing moment.
Yeah.
Oh.
And actually, I can't bear to look at that picture because, but there you have it. So yeah, so I read the cards for her situation because, well, an old dog, and she started not so well. And then I thought, and then you sense it, and then you think, I wonder how it's going to go. So I read with the Lenormand cards, I read with playing cards, I read with the tarot, but the latest, that was 2 days ago. So I cast just the standard French cross, just the French cross. And then I got the Empress opposite Death. And then I got, for the resolving influences at the top, I got Force. And then the outcome was the Poppess. And then I was upstairs while she was downstairs, and it was the middle of the night, and I was quite upset. And then because she couldn't manage the stairs anymore, so we split the bedrooms, so my partner decided to stay with her on the ground level, and then I would still sleep in my Japanese tatami room that where Frigg, she wasn't all that into tatami mats, so but I was up there reading the cards, and then I just had this impulse, and then I thought, okay, it looks like this is it, right? And this is just, and then speaking of, so you do have that context. You read for maybe not. I wasn't having a specific question as such. I was just like more like how is this going to go? And then the plan was to just call the veterinarian and hear him out. They do house calls. And then I
Yeah.
thought maybe it's not, maybe she's just, maybe he can just give her some pills or something. Maybe she just has an inflammation or so, yeah. So I thought, let me see what the cards say. But when it's so painfully clear, so there I was. I don't want to say that I was the empress, but it was more like for her. So I thought, well, she is the empress. I mean, you just saw her picture, right?
Yeah.
So the empress, but the empress was facing death. And then
Mhm.
because speaking of also like who is who in the tarot, so that is also yet another of those things when people say, well, I can't read a 3 card spread without positions, like when
Yeah.
we have the Celtic cross. This is you, this is your past, this is your enemy, this is your environment, this is your desire. That's easy, because then you just read card by card and that's that. So when you read a 3 card spread and then you get all these people or what, and it's like, so who the hell is who, right? So how do you determine that? So I thought, well, I was reading for her, obviously, and she was the empress facing death, and I was forced. And then I said, initially, let me just show the cards now that I sit here.
Oh yeah.
It's easier with visuals. So I
That's
thought,
interesting.
yeah. So I thought, let me just find them. There's the empress. No, why can't I find my cards when I need them? I found the Empress and the Puppets.
Oh,
Ah, yes, there is force. Yeah, I'm sorry about my
yeah.
heart. It's not. I'm not
Oh
in the most
no.
cheerful. Yes, and I can't remember what the
No.
synthesis. So never mind. These are the more interesting. So here we have the Empress for the French cross.
Yeah.
Um, and the empress was facing death, right? And then
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the top for the resolving influences, here we have force or la
Yeah.
force with so and then the purpose, down here. So I thought, well, obviously this is Frigg. Oh, sorry.
Hmm.
How is it? Am I holding them
No, no,
right?
it's perfect. Yeah.
It's
No,
the other
it
one.
looks good.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Okay. So here it was. Frigg was facing her death. This beautiful. She really was a sublimely beautiful dog. So not just
Oh yeah.
the looks, but just in all aspects. This is her, and she was facing that, and then clearly the dame here, in the La Force card, that was me, So I thought, oh,
Yeah.
I'm fighting with her. But then I realized, no, I'm resisting the situation, I don't want to let her go. So so in more standard settings, you'd say, oh, here is the dame. She's trying to open the lion's mouth. She's wrestling with that. This card means struggle. This card means force, also determination, even magnetism, a form of animalic,
Yeah.
approach to things, whatever, taming if you're trying to be on the same page with others. And often I hear myself delivering these particular lines, of approaching this card, if you like, but in the context, so in the context of my situation, they're thinking, I wonder how what will the vet be saying and what will he be addressing. So, it was also a kind of a predictive reading.
Yeah.
So basically, I think at the back of my mind was, what will the vet be addressing or what will he find, So is this solvable, although I could also see that the dog was beginning to, not be so. But on occasion, maybe they can stretch it a few more months, and then you can have a few more special moments and all of that, But when you get the death, and I'm like, and it was very clear. So I rushed down the stairs, and then it was in hindsight. I didn't think so much about this card La Force, But as I was rushing down the stairs, and I grabbed her, and I held on to her, So suddenly the meaning of that card became very apparent to me, that what I was trying to hold on to her, like, oh my God, death is coming for you. I'm trying to hold on to. And then, of course, why do I want to hold on to her? If you do the bother to go into that self-reflective box, as it were, then I'm like, well, I try to avoid being alone, or maybe just living with my memories, putting her pictures in my books, that can also be a form of consolation, if you like. Or some would say, how do you handle grief, or how do you handle some of these topics? And then as I was being now for 2 days, I've been thinking about this particular spread, and then I was thinking, man, what is grief even, And I thought it's one of the highest, perhaps even more sophisticated forms of selfishness. It's like I'm grieving because my own loss is like my dog is leaving me, or my husband left me, or whoever, or some things that we lose, my job, So and ultimately, it has nothing to do with the object itself, or with the other creature, or with the other being, It's all about me. It's all about me and how selfish. I mean, I don't want to be alone, I don't want to just put things in a book. I want to have access to her fur, right? Hands on the fur, He says, and then I didn't even know how to address that one, So I've been like, for 2 days now. I was like, okay, do I mourn her? Do I celebrate her life? And obviously we can do all these things, but then again, from a Zen approach, also, it's like, what's the point? And this was also the reason why I insisted, for all my not such a good state today, of showing up and honoring our scheduled session here, and I thought, just 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 be present there, and then go and have a wake, So the vet was here. He gave her the final shot, and then they are not, because of the EU regulations. They actually, imagine that they are not allowed to transport the corpse. So you have to do it. And because this is Denmark, such a civilized country, so he came here past just before the closing hours, and then he says, "Well, I'm afraid you can't bring the corpse now. You have to bring it tomorrow morning." So I'm like, "Fuck, okay." Luckily, I have a huge house with the most wonderful garage. So so we set it all up there, and we wrapped my beautiful dog in a very beautiful uh, shroud with roses. So now she's like lying there, and then after we are done here, I'm going to go and drink myself to, I won't say to death, but and toast her life, and maybe smoke some interesting weeds or whatever, magical herbs. This is also one of the dogs, and the reason why she has been in my books is because on occasion I would actually put her through a lot of things. Like, speaking of astrology, when I would observe the planetary movements, or read cards, or make some talismans. So I like to make talismans because there is a lot of creative work that goes into that, but at the same time there is also the magical intent, and then the dog would be like the familiar, this big wolf. Yeah. So she was so she was always a witness to, at least for the past 13 years. Can't even remember a single magical operation that I have engaged with, whether for this way or the other way of the barometer, like, of what is acceptable. Let's just put it that way. The dog was there, ever so faithful. So so I was like, okay, I have a lot of herbs here that I can, and I already started, and we will have one last communion. I was happy that and then I said, see, it comes in handy, these EU regulations, that the vet couldn't take the body. And then I said, I actually need the goddamn body, because the body needs to be there and I need to look at it and I need to go through what I need to go through, and I
Yeah,
need to make sure that we have, as it were, if we want to go that being Zen, I don't hold any beliefs of any kind, but I like to engage with the I'm an animist, you see. So I believe, inverted commas, that we surround ourselves with objects and creatures and spirits alike, on a to the extent that we are able to pay attention, to read signs, to read omens,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
so I'm ready to go in there in the garage. Luckily, it's a good one, so it's nice to sit in. So and then we will have a little communion, and then I will be ready to send her to the cremation place, and I'll keep the ashes because you see they can come in handy for the future magical operations. Poor dog, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Nice.
but I do. I mean, this is my life. I don't know. It's like, so beyond here. You said that you want to hear some stories about my life. Now, so here you have it. As
Yeah, I
I.
like this. This is really pure and authentic. That's also what I
Hmm.
was saying to Morgan. So, what I really liked about you, or like about you, you are very artistic. You are
Mm,
Yeah.
someone genuine. And
well,
if
thank
I
you.
look at your work, you're authentic and you have a very good feel for how you display things.
Mm,
You're not someone like monkey sees, monkey does. You really do your own
Yeah.
stuff, and I really admire that. That's also what I said to Morgan, and especially because you have a very interesting background, coming
mm,
from a
Yes.
university professor and all that.
yeah. Mm,
So I said she's a very interesting lady in that regard, and also, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have a lot of interest in folklore and all that, and folk
mm.
magic, and
Yes, that is correct.
yeah.
Yes,
That.
I do. Yes. Yes,
But
I don't know how to describe. I mean, some would say, "Oh, what an eclectic person." So I don't. I prefer not to have any labels attached to either what I'm doing or what I am. It's like, if anything, I prefer the Zen label, if anything. So it's like I'm just here doing this, and right now I'm talking to you guys, right? So and then that's all there is to it. Um, but as a self descriptor, I would just say that I'm so goddamn curious. And that is, so because I'm curious about so many things, I end up poking my nose into all sorts, and then, because it's not just the conceptual, so the fact that, oh, you have been trained in reading. Yeah, I mean, all my life I was a literature professor, until I retired, and this is what I did. I taught students to identify what the hell was going on in a text, in a piece of poetry that they always complained that it resisted them, or there is always some basic principles of fundamental principles that go into reading a text, and whether visual or visual import or just verbal. I mean, so many novels have fantastic descriptors. I mean, they describe a whole world and you just see it. So you don't need any drawing, you will see it. So how you read, how do you read the things, what are the what's the how do we get into it, as it were. So
like
you
the
go
rebel, I
from
think.
that, and you can just say, well, at the conceptual level it's always, but I've always liked to stress the other part of it, not just as the reflective, but it's more like, okay, so if this text here conjures a world of smells. For instance, I just did the book about scent and perfumes. I'm making perfumes, imagine, of all things. um
Ah.
so it's like, how do you, so there are all these descriptors, you can have without anything. You don't have any access to the actual material, to the plants or oils or whatever. concretes and absolutes, all these fancy names that you'll find in any alchemical manual. So you can find this very clear descriptions of what a thing smells like or what a thing looks like, and I said, well, there it is, you always have to approach it on that basis where you start either seeing it visually, some would say the mind's eye, or you start smelling it downright, so kick in your senses, you start to, and then suddenly if you allow yourself to do that, I don't know, let's use that word, then you are right there where you begin to understand how you can simply get a sense of your room, of the text you are reading, of the image you are looking at, by simply connecting it to how you feel about it. How do you feel about this?
Oh,
Does it tickle you, or does it make your hair rise? I'm saying, what of that? I wouldn't even call it an emotion because it's more like a response. So in my own teaching, whether in the academic setting or whether in cartomancy, I always try to, or I tried. This wasn't even a try. It's more like an adamant or like dictation. Say, hey, listen up. You have to feel this, or you have to smell this, or you have to the tactile, how even as you shuffle, it's like I'm a big proponent of, reading cards. People ask me, say, so what is your routine, so how do you start? And then I'm saying, well, I always start to the shuffle. Yes. You shuffle the cards and say, well, it's not just about shuffling, but I said I start with sounds. And people go like, sounds? And it's like, yeah. So how do your cards, like, and tapping? So you hear that?
yes.
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
always go like this, I shuffle, shuffle. For instance, I'm not very keen on all the plastic things. That's the reason why I invest in old cards, old card stock, good card stocks. Like these
And
days,
they
some people,
smell.
yeah, that
Yes.
too.
They have a
I mean,
great
Yes.
scent, isn't it?
yeah.
Yes.
So you
Oh,
just
yeah.
go like this, and then you feel the texture, the texture of the card. So even though you've had this for 20 years, I can still get into that, call it zone, where I have a very distinct feeling of how this thing, like what does it do to my hands? It's very oily now and dirty, but never mind. But even that, so this kind of dirt and oils and I don't know, age, use, and I just go like this, and then it's just an impulse, So I talk to the other person if it's a live thing, and then I talk, and I want to hear the context because what. Sometimes people don't have a clearly clever formulated question. I love those, and if only people could deliver such things, but most of the time people don't even know what to ask, and then through a kind of a conversation or the description of the context or predicament, we can arrive at a situation and say, okay, let's put it this way. So what I do while we have this preliminary conversation, I just go like this, I shuffle, and then I go like, you know it's as if well, once somebody asked me, so says, and it's so funny because I just do it because I get the sense of the rhythm, so it starts with feeling the tactile approach, smelling indeed. I mean, my cards, they don't smell too good, but never mind. Uh, so so the sound. So somebody said to me, so, oh, is that maybe a Romanian, speaking of folklore, right? Is that a Romanian way of conjuring spirits or the dead? Some people, and then I had to think about it, and then I thought, huh. Well, now that you mention it, and then I understood. I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue. I have no idea. And then people are slightly disappointed because they think that there is some kind of, a higher meaning or some esoteric thing, or well, we do this
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
or like in some other description, speaking of magical operations, you'll come across. If not the exact object or shamanism, if someone is interested in shamanic studies, oh, it's almost, you can't even pick a book without finding a reference to making sure to have your magical stuff. And then if you have to conjure somebody after you cast a circle or whatever you do, then you tap that with the 3 times or 7 times, depending, I mean, these things, the 3 or the 7 or the 5, it
Yeah.
changes according to whoever you are reading. So it's like that. So people think that that there is that you are doing that consciously. Yeah? Now, when I dismiss this to their great disappointment, because everybody likes this mystery channel, everybody loves the mystery, and they would like for me
Oh,
to
yes.
tell them the wildest stories of some vlach, mean magic, we go and tap with our cards, or I don't know. And then I said, no, I haven't a clue, as to what we do exactly. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people in my family reading cards. Gypsies, likewise. We have lots of those in Romania that I grew up with, and I never thought about it. So they just shuffle and they just put the cards down, and then and then they just tell the story. At the same time, I thought, well, what if there is that? you know what if your own style, which I would say my personal style, though I wouldn't put my hand in fire, maybe others do that too. So I always say, oh, by the way, that's original, that's mine. Speaking of, that's mine. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Don't steal it.
No.
That's mine, so it's like I
Yeah.
don't do that, because I'm sure that others, even if already, probably you could easily find 10 others who would tap like this with their cards. So I don't want to claim any kind of ownership of these practices, and especially if to an extent, we also follow maybe some lineages, some traditions, whether we are conscious of them or not. But I did think about it, and then I thought, well, as an animist also, and then I thought, well, I mean, if you go to Japan, for instance, when they are the most animistic of of the cultures that have a fairly regulated approach to, for instance, how they set up their altars, of the
Oh,
ancestral altars and all that. And then you'll always see that what they do is like twice. So it's always a tapping. So it's like they never stand in front of any kind of altar, whether the ancestors or the Buddha in the temple or whatever. They always
Yeah.
they clap twice. So the sounds, so then I thought, well, there you have it. So perhaps one does conjure something, or perhaps my reading cards, doing this, listening to the other, and trying to actually understand the question or understand very clearly what it is that they go through, because otherwise, how the hell am I going to be precise if I cannot refer what I see in the cards directly to what they are going through? Now in my case here with reading for my dog, I mean, that was not even challenging, but when you read the cards in places, you can come across situations when you say, oh wow, how am I gonna take this one, like, I don't know. I was speaking of the Lenormand. I was reading. Let me just show you. I can't
oh,
even remember. I read also, but generally just the tree card, and it was, oh yeah, and it was about whether we had some pills here from the vet, and then I thought, should we give her some? And then I got the snake, and I said, so instantly, so I read for prediction or for advice, in the sense, like, okay, so what's the best approach? I can see that maybe she's uncomfortable, the poor dog. So what should we do? So the snake, and the answer comes immediately, and it's like, oh, and I did the 5 card, do and don't. I can't even remember what the others were. I remember 2, however. Um, and then the card on top would do this, and don't do that. And I like to read the contrasting positions.
Yeah.
If at
Yeah.
all I read positional spreads, that's the only one I basically can master. On occasion, I like to cast a Celtic cross or some others, but it's very rare. So I just like the straight up 3 card, and then the French cross, or this do and don't classic spread, where you just have a 3 card on the horizontal line for the situation, and then you put the card on top for do this, and the card at the bottom for don't do this. Because it's often is like, yeah, you do this, but maybe you also want to know what to avoid. So
Yeah.
I've described that spread in a number of a number of my books. So, but let me see. So the snake, but then and then I get this one at the end of the spread, and I can't remember what the others were. But the snake, so here is the snake. It almost like it's like some pearls. It has. um, so so I just and then I see this, and the answer immediately comes in. So I read both the visuals, but still going back to the context, and I said, "Oh, give us some pills," So what's the best approach? Is all of these small things. I don't know to what extent you can see, but I see
Oh
all of
yeah.
these things as like pills, So try and medicate or some, when we had some, and I thought pills and don't do. I got the letter. Don't do the letter. So I said, no, we don't need to call the vet, or we
Yeah.
don't need to do anything right now because giving her just these pills that will do it. So people ask me, so you live your life according to what the cards say, and I'm like, well, yeah. Why
Yeah.
not? The cards always like take it or leave it. They will give you some indication, and obviously,
Mhm.
obviously, however, if I feel it doesn't make any sense, then I don't go like an idiot and slavishly just follow and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do that because the card said that." Yeah, but I still want to be the boss. But in the final position, right? In the final position, I got this one, and then I thought the crossroads, right? And this
Oh
is
yeah.
this is my own design here, so it's not like I did this, I don't know, 15 years ago. Yeah, that was
Wow.
also this Lenormand deck was also in response to when the Lenormand grabbed the whole Anglo-American. Well, nobody had heard of the Lenormand 15 years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
and then suddenly, like, it was booming. And then
Yeah.
people started talking about, oh, how difficult and to create any deck, and it takes forever, and it da, da, da. And then I was like, oh, such nonsense. And although I don't have any drawing skills as such, so I have a friend who was a professional illustrator, and she came to visit me here by the sea. And then I said, "Oh, the weather forecast is so bad, it's gonna rain, I'm afraid, and we can't go swimming or anything." And as it turned out, the weather was absolutely glorious, and we went swimming all the time. So instead of doing the Lenormand deck, I said, "Let's do a Lenormand deck together." So we did. She drew 6 cards or the 4 cards, and then I had to do the rest
Oh,
because she left, and then I blame it on the weather.
yeah.
Yeah, so and then I said to her, we have to do this deck in 1 hour because I'm sick and tired of having to listen to all these people lamenting that, oh, it takes so long, and that I said, let's show them. And this Lenormand is going to be traditional and esoteric and erotic and all of that. I called it the helium.
Erotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, a helium Portland. Yes, yes, you should see
There is
the.
nothing esoteric on Petit
Yeah, yeah,
Lenormand.
yeah. So we made a bit of fun of at the time, of all the idiotic claims out there. I mean, I don't mind. People can claim anything, but can we have an argument for it? Oh, that as soon as you ask for one, you'll be hard pressed, to find one. Never mind. So, but this was my idea of the crossroads. So and then I thought,
I
the
like that.
crossroads. So I had a moment of hesitation. So with the snake, I instantly thought, well, the pharmacon. Again, it was clear to me. Just give us some pills and don't call the vet. Don't do the letter. Don't be so expedient about it. Like to communicate the ailments of your dog to any kind of official. Way to that. Or wait, just don't do the letter. Yeah. Literally. And but this one I thought I didn't quite know what to make of it. But then my partner here, who's also a very competent card reader, he had an insight, as I was like, and usually I don't hesitate. Usually I get this immediately, because well, you, when you are routined, so you just and you have a
Yeah.
context on the table. So it's not like a big deal to associate what you're going through or to refer what you see in the cards to what you're going through, and that's what creates that clarity and precision that I like to hold myself to, or I always invite my students to consider, or at least aim for. So he said, well, he said immediately, I said, well, that's the end of the road.
Yeah.
And then it's like the obvious, Then I was like, oh, fuck,
Yeah.
why didn't I see that? So I was a little upset with myself. I thought, why can't I see? So, but it's clear, So it's like it's going there, I mean, is is the end of the road. So that was like
Yeah.
last week, I think. And then as I said, and then 2 days ago, I was upstairs by myself, and I read the cards, and I see the Empress is facing death. And then I rush down to put my hands in her fur, and well, and today she, yes, and today
I'm
she,
so
Sorry.
sorry, Camelia.
yeah,
That's hard. Yeah.
today she left us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's life. People come, people go.
But you tell
Yeah.
about fur. Of all my dogs, I always keep a little bit of fur
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
as a reminder, as something.
yeah, yeah,
Well, and
yeah. It's
also,
always a good idea. Yeah. So I didn't want to.
yeah.
I thought about it, and now she's lying there, and I said I don't want any um dead. Uh, Once she's there, wrapped in all these roses I prepared for her, because I always thought she was like a true Venus.
Yes.
She was also a Taurus, so she was ruled by Venus.
Oh,
Born in
yeah.
May. She just turned 13 in May,
Yeah.
and she really was like a true empress, you know. So I said, nah, I don't want to disturb that, and go there with the scissors and cut it, you know. But you're gonna laugh at me, or I laugh at myself, you know. So, but and I said to my partner, I said, I don't know, we don't do that. But next time we have to clean the house, I'm gonna keep all the fur from it. I have a ton of books here, and then like this. There's always been so much hair under every book and everything. I said, I don't think I have a problem finding dog hair, dog hair
Yeah.
to keep. So I just have to. To sweep the floors, and then I'm gonna have my magical thing, and it will have come from the creature that still had the life force and vitality um,
Yeah.
within her, so I know that
And
in some people like to take a token, but I always thought, no, when you send people away, or when you send dogs away, so here is a piece of folkloric common sense, if anybody is interested. Don't take anything from the dead. I mean, what would be the point? You want to send them off with something. You want to stick a coin in there, whatever, or wrap them in a blanket full of roses, or that kind of thing. So you don't go. The thing is dead, and then you go with your scissors and cut the hair, or cut the tail, or cut the ears, or what the hell is that? Uh, I mean, now I'm having a personal opinion here. So
That's no problem.
yeah,
yeah.
that may go against the practices that you have been doing. But I always think, just think about it. Or if one must, then hoover your house, and then don't throw the contents of your vacuum cleaner before you actually go through it. And you can dig out all the hairs, and you'll have had hair that comes from the
Yeah.
thing, while it was still
Yeah.
full of strength and barking and, protecting you.
Yeah. And your journey too, because you said she like witnessed everything you did magically, all that energy. It's like that talisman that absorbed the library of everything you did. So
Yeah.
having that with your journey.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. In a way, I was even thinking, oh man, like, so, because it's one is always, how shall I put it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, animals, it's true what they say. We don't deserve our pets. We don't deserve our dogs, especially. They are so special.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh,
so
yes.
so in place we resist them, because they create a lot of mess. And this wolf here, she also was in place quite demanding. She was always like in and out of the house, and I often like, oh, fuck off, like I'm not your butler, so we would have this conversation. So for all my heart for her was always like this, and she would always come and like I was the boss, So when we picked her up, and I never had any dogs before. My partner, he had many dogs before, and I was so convinced. That's the 13 years ago, and I really was again clueless about this world, and then but I just thought, I feel like I need something to anchor me. At that time, we were still at the university, both of us, and the year we decided to have her, that was our record, I think. We went to 12 conferences in one year, 12 different countries. And I got so
Oh,
goddamn tired. And then I said, I'm too old for this shit, and I really don't have anything to prove. And if I have any findings, I put them in journals, I put them in books, so people can just go and get the fucking book, right? I don't need to go there and entertain anybody and to do, and then I'm so tired. So I said, and yet you can't say no because it's always so enticing and people always seduce you. And then they say, oh, but you have to because this is the keynote. And, how can you not be a celebrity, and you fall for it because, well, guess what? You want to be the celebrity, right? Oh, I don't know. So you never say no. So I said, wow, we've just been to 12 conferences and we couldn't bring ourselves to say, no, we're tired. We don't want to do this anymore. So I said to my partner, let's get a dog. We get a dog, that's going to ground us. So I don't going to go anywhere, anyway. So that came to pass, So so when we went to fetch her, she was 3 months. Yeah, so we had her since she was very little. And then I was convinced because my partner prepared me and said, yes, usually the dogs, right? So when we go there and it will choose, we can't be both of us bosses. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I just want her in the house, and so I just want to look at her because she was this beautiful thing. And even though some people say, oh, you don't want to buy a husky and German Shepherd mix, black German Shepherd, because I mean, two different natures. The husky is very independent and actually quite difficult to handle, especially as your first dog. And the other one is like a shepherd dog, right? So it's like one will want to gather the flock, and the other one will just want to, like.
Mhm.
And we have come to experience the contradictions. And I actually even said to poor Frigg, I said, Friggy, you didn't come into this life with an easy lot. You are so screwed up in your head because on one hand you want to gather everything, and on the other hand you want to leave us all alone and go wild in the woods, do your thing. And I love to take her to places, in the woods, but then you let her loose, and then an hour later you think, I wonder where the hell she is. You
No.
stop doing that because, and then, but I always like the German Shepherd is going to find a home again because, at some
Yeah.
point she's going to say, oh, where is my flock? Oh, fuck, I have to
Yeah.
find them. Where are those two bozos? I have to find them. But we didn't want to take any more risks because she did. As soon as we would go out, you would see that wildness kicking in. In the house, however, man, the German Shepherd would come through. But when we fetched her, my partner said, we can't both be the boss. So you will see
Mm.
that she will pick one of us. So I go there sheepishly myself and I just like, oh, please, and I hope you'll be a good dog, please. And I don't know anything about dogs. I'm so stupid, but I still would like to try this world. So we go there and then it was, I don't know, he said to me. So the dog comes to me at first,
Oh.
like on first. It comes to me and then he sits there and he's looking. Actually, I have those pictures, and don't
Oh.
ask. I don't want to see those pictures because I just
Yeah.
want to have a conversation with you. And
Mhm.
the way she looked at me, and then he said, and I, like I said, I really honestly, I was completely clueless. I grew up in the big city. No one in my circle had any pets of any kind, dogs, cats, anything. So this animal world was completely foreign to me. But I just felt like testing it out. And I
Mm.
never in my life would have thought that this creature would pick me as the boss. I didn't even know about the concept, that there can only be one boss. And I thought, okay. And then it's true, throughout the years, and then yesterday also we tried to come to terms with Frigg's predicament and death, and then we talked about the past, and then my sister was also here, and then we looked at these pictures, and then I said to her, so you can be the witness. Has she ever looked at Bent in the same way that she looks at me, like giving? So she had her gazes,
Mhm. Yeah.
compartmentalized. It was so clear. And then she also said, nah, it's so clear. So I was always number one. So, and then my partner, he baptized himself, so at some point people couldn't understand what the hell he was talking about. he was have these pictures of her in the social media and say, number two had to do this and that, and number one people say, what are you talking about? And I had to come out, and give everyone the key and says, well, number one is that's her, and I'm number two. And number two had to be doing a lot of chores that number one being number one, being the boss. I kind of enjoyed the privilege of ordering everybody around. And there were things like I would actually have this conversation with the dog and I say, this is not negotiable. Get it?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
dog should should always try to and I never saw this creature as a dog. Maybe that's why she picked me, because I
Yeah.
I saw this creature as somebody breathing, being present, being warm and soft, looking at me with his eyes, and
Yeah.
she didn't have a language, but most definitely we developed actually also kind of a telepathy. And early on, once I wanted to say good night to her, and I would sleep on the one side of and then I said, oh shit, I forgot to say good night to the dog, and she's over at the other end of the room. And it's like the second that I would think, oh, I forgot to go and pet her and kiss her, she comes.
Oh.
She comes at the end of my bed, and then she goes like, you know.
Oh.
And
I
when
love
she
that.
did that the first time, and then I thought like, did I? Luckily, I always have a witness. So I said to my partner, I said, did I say this aloud? Did I just say this aloud? She says, you didn't say anything. And I said, oh, that's what I thought. I didn't say anything. So it's like she heard my desire, or she felt my desire, and she had already gone to bed, because this is the thing. Like, you think it's a fluke, and think, well, it was so demonstrative, and it was so again. And I just like, oh shit, and I don't feel like getting up again, and I want to go there. And then I said, but I regret that I didn't get to give her a hug.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the second
Yeah.
I finished the thought, she comes. And I said, I'm
Oh.
here, so give me the hug. And I
Yeah.
didn't use any words. So when I had that experience, then I realized this is a true familiar.
Mm.
Exactly, in the magical, witchy, if you like, sense, that people talk about witches having familiars, and I said, do I have one? I don't even have to say anything. This thing understands me. We have a telepathy. So that's why, but on occasion, I did have to say the word and say, this is not negotiable. So,
Mm. Yeah.
Is it instinct?
I, I
Yeah.
would go like this and say, hey,
Yeah.
and they should go like, her ears going going even more, sharp, pointy. And so we had a very special bond. And I could see that my partner, while he had a very special bond with her, for once he would feed her, because I'm always too busy to do it myself. And then although people say, well, the dogs are always best friends with the one who feeds them, and I say, what kind of a nonsense is this? I never feed the dog, and yet the dog comes to me. The dog also thinks I am God. Like, a couple of times she was in a threatening situation when we were out. Other dogs, just launched at her. And my partner, he is this huge Viking. He is big and tall, and all that.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, the dog, she comes and seeks refuge between my legs, and I'm a tiny woman. And I'm like, okay, good luck to you if you think I can save you. But the dog is like, if anybody saves me, well, it's not going to be the big Viking, and he may feed me. But who is my savior? It's her.
Yeah.
And, so you just have this kind of like, you are so moved,
Yeah.
because who gives you this? Who will think of you as God? Like, nobody thinks of me as God. Now you can hear. Now I'm going to lament quite a bit. The loss of having those eyes on me.
Mhm.
Thinking that I am, like, I don't know, some kind of best creature on the planet. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah, of
goes.
course.
But
Yeah.
these telepathic moments, we can develop them with our pets, with the creatures around us, and you
Oh, yeah.
don't need language, and they do become your familiar, even without you having to say, okay, now you're in my house. Let's
Yeah.
make a ritual, and we're going to initiate one another. People love initiations, right? We're going to
Oh yeah.
initiate one another in this and that, and I'm gonna put the sign of the cross on your forehead, or I don't know how much sage and wormwood and God knows what. And then now we exchange vows, all of that. None of that
Yeah.
happens, So,
Yeah.
but if you are there in the moment, and if you are lucky enough to experience it, then you just realize, no shit,
Yeah.
this one picked you, and this one has become your true,
Yeah.
uncontested familiar.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Oh
yes,
yeah.
of course I had to take her with me on all my escapades
Yeah.
and adventures, magical and otherwise, So
Oh yeah. That's important. I think that makes the bond better too when you do have not the initiation, but the magical journey, the journey,
yeah,
taking them everywhere with you.
yeah,
Yeah. Because I can only imagine. I had the same thing with my cat
yeah,
travels
yeah,
because
yeah. So and
they're an extension.
yeah, and
Oh
because
yeah.
of this, I mean, on occasion people also say, "Well, do you read for pets?" Speaking of, cartomancy, and I'm like, "Well, yeah. What's the difference between reading
Yeah.
for pets or reading for people? I mean, the pets may not be able to be so sophisticated in their formulating or putting an interesting goddamn question on your table, but they may still.
Neither are many people.
Right, yeah, that's the sad part, yeah. But still,
Yeah.
and or else even if you were to say, okay, I can help you formulate something so that without any judgment, because there may be reasons why people they are not clear in the head. That's why they are there to see, So maybe on occasion they know that they want to know something, but they are not so clear about it, So
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
together, so of course with the pet, you can't take the pet and then say, okay, so tell me something about, tell me how you feel today, right? So, or what do you want to know, right? So there you really do rely on primarily on what the images give you. But there is, even beyond the verbal, there will always be a context. And that's what you work with. I mean, for me, it's not the cards. I don't start with the cards. When people say, what's your routine? My routine, let me hear what troubles you.
Yeah.
That's the beginning, Um,
Yeah.
so of course, with reading for pets, you kind of that exchange, but there will be a context, because if people do have a question, it's because it will be anchored in what they have observed. So again, we start to that observation, So they observe
Yeah.
that the pet is not well, or that they may need something, or they're not eating enough, or And in that sense, it's not different than performing a health reading, for other people.
No, no, and I can
Yeah.
relate to that because nowadays, since like 10 years, I'm like a hypnotherapist. And once in a while, people come for hypnotherapy for their animal, but it's then not their animal, but they got hypnotized and they changed something inside of them, which sends out to the animal indirect. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
animals also communicate and they have to uh, resonate with different levels. I think they also look at your body language. They also sense, and they have a whole different language, maybe more sophisticated as ours in
Right.
that
Yeah.
regard, because they know when there will be bad weather. You see that at a dog hours before. We see it
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
news, but if we didn't have news, and in the old days, people were very much aware of how the animals acted. People in farms and all that, they could see, okay, the birds are flying like this, or the cows are acting that way, and they were all so different
Mm.
kind of stuff, but they saw things in routines and they say there's something shifting, okay, and then
Yeah.
happened and people seeing the right correlation between that. And maybe that's also what you try to say, how you read the cards, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it starts with reading the room, as it were,
Yeah,
first.
Oh
context
yeah.
context reading.
Yes.
And then you put the
Yeah.
cards down, and then you just kind of take it from. And in that sense, it's very easy, So of course, again, one can come across a more challenging, perhaps situation, but if you just give it a quick thought, not even a deep thought. It can be just a quick one, but a thought
Yeah.
still needs to be present. You will be able to identify, for instance, who is being represented by what card. So this thing with, oh, but like often with the playing cards, that's a problem. Especially with the fortune telling cards, like the Sibylla cards. And the problem with those cards, and I don't read a lot of them because they kind of enervate me. It's like there are too many people, It's like, and who are these people, And then you want to,
Yeah.
and then people say, well, I don't know no officer, and I don't know any, and I don't know any seducer, and I don't know any mean woman, and I don't know any, And so who are these people? So, but if you just, at least in my practice, just take my situation. So I could have said, so I am the empress and death is coming, but death was not opposite the emperor, that not coming for me, unless who's to say, Well, maybe the sick dog can easily outlive you, right? So,
Yeah.
so who is who? Who is who? Who is force? Is that,
Hmm.
okay, that one is a kind of a given if you just look at how the agency is being distributed there, because visually we have a woman with a furry animal. So it's like, guess what? Take a wild
Yeah.
guess. Well, it's very rarely, however, would we find a situation when those roles, we could find an argument for why we would invert them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
say, well, actually, you are the one submitting. You are the dog here, and your animal
Yeah.
is overpowering you. Ah,
Yeah.
but there would have to be an incentive on the table for that reading to occur. Otherwise, it would make no sense. So
Yeah.
there is always a kind of a motivation behind, how we end up arguing for what is the case.
Yeah.
So just looking at who is doing what to whom, so that's the one.
Yeah.
My point is the one can encounter those situations where you have to think twice or do a quick thinking, because it's
Yeah.
not so clear cut. It may not be so clear cut that you are the
Yeah.
empress, or that you are the woman, La Force, or the star, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, the poppers. Who is the poppers? So but it was, when you think about it, when again, and when you do draw always on the context, you will very quickly see that you in fact can make a very commonsensical case for why a particular card ends up representing a particular subject, a particular
Hmm.
person. If we have a reading for where different agents are involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not sure where I was going with that,
Oh
but
no. Because it's like how people see the cards. Like you said, it's gonna come down to how you see the cards and intuition with that, and who is who.
yeah, yeah.
So
And do you
yeah.
think, Camelia, that there are more possible right answers in a spread? Would that be possible, according
Well,
to you?
yes, absolutely. But I always think that yes, but then it comes down to hierarchy and priority, because if you do get several, let's say, right answers, then if you were me, I don't know, it's like I want a clear cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Then I would want to know, okay, so which answer is more right than the other? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's like I
Yeah.
see that there can be possible right answers here, but which one will be the most relevant for me to draw on, Because you can
Yeah.
have competing narratives. If you have competing narratives, if you have competing right answers, you're gonna be back to square one, uh, being none the wiser, and you think,
Yeah.
no, okay, I can see that this can go and this can also go, because why? Because I can find an argument for why that could also happen, so fine. But then at the end of the day, if you do need one sharp line to follow, let's just say, then how useful will these competing narratives be to you? They are useless, so you'll either have to cast more cards to clarify a situation, or you'll have to do a side by side for comparison and say, okay, if this is right, in how how does it manifest? Let's just put it that way, right? And this is also right. So if I go this right answer, then how will this manifest? So that would be, for instance, my own approach to it. If I would be presented with competing narratives, then I would still, and if I have to make a choice, then I would put yet another set of 3 cards for the one scenario, for the one right answer, and then another set of 3 cards for the other scenario, for the other right answer. And then I would have an indication as to which to do of priority, So which one would I pick? This one or that one,
Yeah.
So I don't stand there being vague or being or being ever so satisfying that actually both these options can go, and then often I actually come across and in fact, to be honest, I sometimes people ask me, about leaving the job, or should I leave the job, or should I pursue? I've been offered the promotion, but I'm not sure about it. Should I take it, or should I just go somewhere else? And it's a classic question. And to be honest, I did find the card suggesting that, actually, if you leave, it'll be fine. And if you stay, it'll also be fine. And then you say, oh, okay. So then still, but which one is it? So then it comes down to the person's own personal preference. Yet, however, if they still insist, and I say, but which one? Or else because I know already that people would like to have a clearer answer than just me saying, well, actually, both options are good. But people are not happy with that. Well, both options are good. But I mean, I just came here to ask you, should I stay or should I go? And you tell me, well, both can go. But the cards say that the green light is here and the green light is also here. Well, so what I do, because I know that I wouldn't be satisfied myself, you see, if I were to read the cards for myself and if I got that. And I was still like, what the fuck is this? So then I still need to know, right? Do I stay or do I go? So then what you do is you simply, even without casting extra cards or pulling extra cards from the deck, what you can do is you run a quick reflection, you run a quick evaluation and think about it, because if you pay attention to some details, you will actually see that these 2 right answers, there will be one or the cards will be making a case for one to be stronger. So it's like the cards will offer a stronger testimony for one of the 2 scenarios than the other. So in principle, what I'm trying to say is that in principle, the cards would say, yes, both can go, and no problem. But if you do this, there is a clear testimony here. There is often a cue or a signal, a visual cue, because that's what we are working with. Or together, at the level of how you synthesize what you're saying, that will give you quite a clear indication that this is in fact the better option. So then when we can pass the judgment, if you ask me, then at the end of the day, then I will say, well, yes, both options are good, but all of this, not all good things are equal, you see. So, so there is still better or a stronger testimony for this scenario. So you can still, again, one can have the discussion, say, and there is no disaster, it's like if you choose, or if you think that, look at your circumstance, there is no disaster. You just go ahead or leave your job or whatever, or get the promotion, and it's not going to get any more difficult, but there will be that, so there is no disaster. But the other thing, however, is still better. So then, in other words, we will be operating with some kind of modifiers, something will still be better. That's what I'm talking about, the competitive narratives, because where with the Aristoteles, you can't
And then
have.
there's this, Camelia, and I want to hear your upright meaning in regards of that. And I know you're really outgoing on that, and I really like it. I appreciate it. I think that's also something European, that we are often right to the point. But I often make the claim that a wrong answer can be a right answer. What do you think about that?
In what sense can a wrong answer be a right answer? Or
You know, I had
how?
this client, and she came for me, and long story short, and a very short notice, her life became a total disaster. She did good business wise and all that, but all of a sudden it went astray with her kids, with her husband, and all that, And she was like losing eyesight. So there's a fleece on your eye, and it was like losing, and she was on the risk by losing her eyesight. And she came to me for guidance and all that. So, and I was reading Petite Maman. As you know, the cards themselves, there was no card in a 9 card spread that could ever hint to something that could go wrong. So I said to her, okay, everything will be fine, you will be good, blah, blah, blah. So story short, after a while, she contacted me and for another reading back then, but she lost her eyesight. So I felt really guilty. So I am so sorry that I give you this wrong answer, and I'm sorry, I should not have been reading about health and all that, excusing myself. And she said, no, I'm really thankful for you, because if I knew then that I would lose my eyesight, I think I would have driven my car off the road against a tree. That was my planning, and you give me hope.
Yes.
And in the meantime, by having some hope, things change. So I'm really thankful for you.
Yes. Now I understand. Yes, actually, I had a similar situation once, or in places, I'm the latest one. I'm still waiting some confirmation for that. But I did have, and I think I put it. Oh, I can't remember which of my books. It was an excellent example, and I used it as teaching material. So I think it may be in the first volume of the Read Like the Devil, or dedicated to the Marseille cards. So I had this woman whose husband, and I have permission to share it. She said, "Yeah, share it," and I even got permission to share her name. So she had her husband. She had a stroke, yeah, and then oh, now it's like, I don't know, more than 10 years ago. I forget the cards. But in any event, so she said, I just want to know whether how it's going to go with him. Will he come out of that? Right now he's incapacitated, he's bedridden, and he can walk, he's paralyzed, yeah, and he can't communicate. So I got oh, how was it? I got Force, and I got the Charioteer, and I forget what the first position was. I think I can't remember what in the first position, but the Charioteer was in the last position, and the Force, I think it was in the second position, and I forget what the first card was. And then I said to her, well, yeah, you are maybe in the hermit, or something like, because so like, you're looking into, or some situation. And then I said, but it looks like he may pull through, and he won't be able to walk, I said, because look at the wheels. So I read the Charioteer there as an indication of a wheelchair, because I thought, paralyzed person. So I said, he might come out of that, but he may not be able to still be as mobile as he used to be, because this person here is actually using a car. So I said, maybe he'd be in a wheelchair. So she was very happy. And then she 2 months later, the man died. So I was like, oh fuck. So I felt like and I was like, oh, but for once, I always think, this is not science. I mean, divination is not math, right? So we are and we are abiding by the statistical rule that says 50-50, you know. And all those that say, oh,
Yeah.
like 90% accuracy, and I'm like, go and bullshit somewhere else. I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
So it's like, sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't. But in terms of what you're saying, Björn, and then of course how you read the cards, and I read the cards with Wood One's the Millennium. You know, I don't know if you know that deck. You know, Wood One's cards. You know, and then he has a very well calibrated color scheme. You know, so I said, what did I miss? You know, so how could I go wrong? So I used that in my teaching example, and I said, how could I go so wrong? You know, it's like I missed something. And then I look at all the elements, you know, and then I see suddenly that, you know, that the water stops. It may have been the star, actually, the first one. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Well, I may have, because there's something with the water. So the star probably was there, and then I look at the stream of water, and then that stops at the neck of the lion in Wood One's cards. Actually, let me see if I have them here.
Yeah.
We have them here somewhere. I have so many cards around. I'm not sure I can find them. Yes, where the hell are they? I can't spot them right now.
That's what I always have. There's too many cards.
It's quite interesting. But again, as I said, I had a very elaborate description of this example in all my books. So and it's beautiful because
And which book is that, Camelia, so that people can who
Yeah,
are
I
listening or
think I
view this,
put
that
it.
they can look at it.
I think I put it in the volume 1 of the Read Like the Devil trilogy. You know, I wrote the Read Like the Devil trilogy. Volume 1 is dedicated to reading with the Marseille cards. Volume 2 is dedicated to reading with the playing cards, and the third volume is dedicated to the Lenormand cards. So let me see, but I'll see. Yeah, there's the Charioteer. So I can't remember if it was the Star or Temperance, actually. Oh, yes. It wasn't the Star, it was Temperance. Anyway, it's all there in the book. So if I'm talking nonsense, but it's because it's such an old example now, and I have a ton of examples of this kind also, you know, not all success stories as such. Right. So I think it was like this. So I said yes, the healing. So in principle, the first card down confirmed somehow the woman's concern, and if I'm not wrong, it was temperance with healing.
Yeah.
Is he going to be coming out of it? So so I said yes, it looks like he's going to come out of it, and he will be in a wheelchair, or he'll probably be in a wheelchair, and then the guy dies 2 months later, right? And then I feel like an idiot, right? And I said, oh fuck, I just told this woman that he will come home, or he will be able to get out. She said, will he be able to get out of the hospital? That's how she put it. And then can we still have a life, you know? And I said, yes, it looks like you will be leaving the hospital, but you will be in a wheelchair. That was the gist of my answer. And then he dies, and then I'm like, fuck, I don't like it that I was so wrong. How could I be so wrong? What did I miss? And then you start seeing, so see here the water. So see, I'm like looking at the temperance is trying to hold balance, you know, and some healing, recalibrating of the man's life. And then I follow the water, and I see it stops right here at the neck of the lion.
I can
And then the lesson for me, in hindsight, always in hindsight, it's easier to reflect if you are given to reflection. Not everyone likes to reflect, but I love to. And then if you think about it, so I said, yes, there we have it. You know, this is a perfect example of how it's not very useful to hold yourself to meanings, you know, that you find in books. And then the charioteers almost always like 100%, unless we have the reverse, which I hate, because what's the reason for that? But never mind, all reverse cards, and I don't know. So I never do any reversals, because if I see this card here next to a bad card, I don't need to understand that this is obviously not having a good time. So I don't need to see it reversed to understand that. It's like not rocket science. So that's my motivation for not reading reversals. But so here we have the two horses, and then I'm like, yes, the victory, and I fell for the shit myself. So my unconscious was playing a game on me because, and even though I say I don't read according to meanings, one is I've done my homework and I read just about every literature that you can think of, the tarot literature, and I'm very familiar with all of these goddamn meanings, So some of them are useful, some are not so useful. And especially in reading situations here, it was not useful to say, yay, victory. Yeah, the guy will be healed and then and it's like crap nonsense, right? That was just not the case.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I said, okay, so the what? I do have a clue, I said the water stops at the neck of the line, and this one here is not coming into town as it were victoriously, like Ben Hur
Yeah.
in his in that Gladiator movie. This one is going away.
Yeah.
This one is not the wheelchair. This is the hearse.
Yeah.
This is the Undertaker's car. So it's the, and then I thought, and then I said, and then I had this conversation with the woman because when she told me, so I said yes, and then I said, this is you trying to hold on to him while he is departing. So, so ever since that example, I used it. So instead of always claiming such accuracy for all my reading, I said, look at this shitty reading I performed, because I missed something essential. And what I missed at the essential level was the possibility to consider that this was not coming home. This was
Yeah.
going away. So now, ever since then, I say to students, always think about the goddamn charioteer. Is he coming or is he going? Because that could tilt
And
your
you said the same with Frigg, with holding on in your reading.
yes, exactly. But
Uh,
similar to what you're saying, Beyond, the woman, she said, well, if you had told me that he was gonna go away, I would have melted.
yeah.
And yeah, and then she said, I was so not ready for that answer.
Yeah.
Because I said, I'm sorry that I missed this. And I said to her, in hindsight, and together we talked about it. And I said, in hindsight, perhaps what I should have said is that the man is trying to keep the balance. And you are trying, and because he was not verbal after the stroke, you are trying to communicate with him. And not only that, but hold on to him. But the water stops here. And then he's going away. And then she said, I'm glad, like you said, I'm glad you didn't tell me anything about his going away because I was not ready for that at all.
Yeah. That's
I,
strange, isn't it?
yeah.
No,
So there you have it.
that's also what I always said. It's like that was my feeling back then. Since I don't lay cards anymore, I'm certainly really still interested in cartomancy as a concept, as a cultural thing, as something to research. But I think what I always needed was a good context, and I had always the feeling that I had to educate people about what divination can do or what divination is, because I like what you say, it's like 50-50, and that's as good as it gets. And I always felt like that. But you don't get the question is like, is the knight in shining armor coming? No, you have really like serious questions back then, like murder cases, like rape, like court cases, like whatever, and that's not an easy game. So that was often I was always apologize me and beforehand, like say, okay, this is only for what it's worth. And I want to read the cards very playful, as if like I'm playing a game and just being by myself, not feeling the heat in my back to not be able to answer or give a wrong answer in that regard. So it's top sport. I find if you have ethics, it's top sport.
Yes. But I guess in a way, it's also a bit of a sport, because like to what extent do you get it right? Or else, for me, it's a sport. It's more like a detective. I like to read the cards for the detective, and I like to unpack the clues. And I always think of myself as a detective, especially when I read the Grand Tableau with the Lenormand cards, So the other example I had was like with the political elections. So sometimes I get it so right, and in a way there was a time when some Mexican election, and like Cashlin Matthews and Mary Greer and all those also got interested in the Lenormand suddenly, So they were reading Grand Tableau in one of those Lenormand groups, and they all got it so goddamn wrong, And then Kathleen says, "Well, how would you put this? So what do you think we went wrong?" And then I thought, okay, they're trying to pick my brain. So I completely dissected what they were saying. And I said, "Well, you went wrong right here." So I demonstrated. I pointed, and oh fuck, So that can happen. And that's the thing that gets me, because I like to unravel the threads, and see how can we construe a particular argument that gives us, and if not license, at least a clear indication that we must go here, not here, or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But solely the fact that you have something that you can put outside of you, Nowadays, I'm a therapist and also facilitate family constellations, systemic work, and that's somehow the same. So you put a blueprint that you have like a thought inside of you, you put it out there. That's somehow the same with cartomancy. So we talk about it, a certain subject, if you have a certain question, you read cards and you have somehow an imagery where we can both relate to you as the diviner and the sitter alike. So you have something out there. That's something fascinating.
Yeah.
And that on its own is really, in regards psychologically, insight or whatever you see it, because there's a lot in the eye of the beholder, I find.
Yeah.
You can wanting or willing to give a very clear answer, but often what I find out back then you often get praised for things you did not say. So they say, "Oh, you were brilliant and you said that and that and that." I knew for sure that I did not say it and I did not mean it that way, but also the other way around, that I know that was bang on. And they say, "Yeah, but you did not say it."
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah, but
strange, isn't
of
it?
course, people, when they seek your counsel, they first of all are emotionally involved, and then second
Oh,
of all,
yes.
they are driven by the fears, desires, and
Yeah.
expectations in relation to those fears and desires. So of course, when they are so involved, then that can happen. When I say, "Oh, you said that," and you say, "I never said that."
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't know, like with the I did a public, I don't do those anymore so often, because well, I had written a ton about it. But the one of the newest, it was connected to the American election, So will Trump or Kamala Harris? And I performed and I think a brilliant, Grand Tableau, where I predicted that Kamala Harris was going to win, and I made an argument for it. So then that asshole
Yeah.
of Trump, he wins, right? And then I'm like, so again, like, what did
Yeah.
I do wrong? So what I did then, this I published on my Substack, the Read Like the Devil Substack. So then I went and then I wrote another piece. And then I looked again at the variables and said, okay, so what the hell is going on here? So what did I,
Yeah.
again, what did I miss again? Or how? And then for once, I actually had to hold myself to my argument. I said, I couldn't have put it any other way,
Yeah.
because what I was seeing in the cards, what was that? And so I said, so actually I have to stand by that. But it's just that, the lottery at the same time, very, very interestingly, now apparently, I don't know if you pay attention to American politics, but apparently every day there is more and more information that surfaces that Trump did rig the election, and that in effect Kamala Harris won
Mm.
by unambiguously, So I'm like, well, there you have it. But who's going
Yeah.
to dethrone this asshole, who's just, making people's lives more miserable by, inventing one more militia, after the other, and it's the authoritarian system now. The fascism is like in full blown swing in America. But at the
Oh,
level
yes.
of like how evidence comes out, and it's like, oh well, so then maybe I did get it right, So,
Yeah.
so it's like there you have. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a lot of people got a kick out of seeing both the initial analysis of the Grand Tableau and then the second reading after the outcome was revealed, And then we looked at what I looked at again. What did I miss? And then I realized, well, I actually didn't miss a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
So it's just that the cards give you that, and then you read that. So you read for what you see. You don't read for your wishes. Although, to be honest, I didn't wish him, and I did wish for her. But I tried to stay away from reading for my own wishes. I mean, what would be the point of that? Though, I'm also human, as they say, and I can fall prey to my own desires, and then I will read those into the cards, and then because I'm biased, then obviously I have to see that Kamala Harris wins, regardless of what the cards say. But if you do the reflective, the detective kind of work step by step, and then see here is the evidence. I'm basing my argument on this visual evidence from the cards, and I will not have been able to construe a strong argument if I had gone in the other direction. And then so my second piece was, well, there you have it. I stand by it. The reality is that the man won instead of the woman, and then I will have to just file that one in my black book and say, okay, that was a failed prediction. Yet, in hindsight, now everybody's talking about Kamala Harris having won,
Oh yeah, I'm in America, so you hear it all the time. But
so there you have it.
We are very grateful that you wanted to be here, even though you are not in a good situation. So I wish you a lot of courage, a lot of support with your husband.
And peace.
I
Lots of
don't
peace.
know what to say. Particularly, I feel sorry for you.
Yes, it's a tough one, and I don't know how I will go through this without my trusted familiars. Speaking of cappings, but I will call on her, like a good Romanian witch. Transylvanian witch. I'm going to call on her, and hopefully she will answer, and she will be there to protect me as she had done in the past, both in
I do think so.
I think I absolutely think so, especially since she was with you on all your magical journeys. Everything you have, your cards and everything have her magic. So
yes, and she has been a very special being, because we operated on different levels, and we did some lucid dreaming operations, and she was like right there, and it was very, very interesting. So I trust that she will be with me, so thank you for your good wishes.
Very open, and I really like that, Camelia. You are really authentic, no mask, and I really like that. I have a lot of respect for
what would I use any mask for? That is the question.
No,
but most people wear like masks.
I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
But I like that. And plus, very, very, a very great interview. I wish you a lot of courage with Frigg, and stay strong.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Camelia.
Thank you, and good luck with your channel. Bye.
Thanks. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.